I am now.
There you go.
Thank you for the reminder.
They only handed us a 10 ml syringe from what they got from that patient that needs a tetanus.
That sounds like I think I know that voice. Lisa. Be popping in here pretty quick, I think. Good morning, everyone. If you, when you join the meeting, if you have not yet already, if you'd put your name and facility in the chat box, that'll help us with trying to keep attendance. Aww. Hi, Tyler. We miss you.
I miss you guys too.
Okay, I think we've got a lot to cover today. So as people keep coming in, Carla, if you'll grab them, we are recording, and hopefully that'll make things a little bit easier when we get ready to send the minutes out to everybody and get started. But people are going to be coming in. We've got a lot to go over today, and we've got a lot of guests that we've asked to join us today, specifically for some of the reviews that we're going to do. So if you want to, as I said before, put your name and your facility in the chat when you join. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can take a look at the agenda. And I hope that's what you can see.
Mhm.
Okay. So we've got our agenda up here, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started. The purpose of the agenda is on here. We have the definition. Just to summarize, our advisory board is very, very important to our program. Not only is it required that we have to have an advisory board and have a meeting twice a year, but we also rely specifically on your feedback, your comments, your concerns, your experiences with our students to guide our program moving forward. We appreciate any and all feedback, even if you have, I don't want to say negative feedback, even if you have constructive criticism or suggestions or anything that we can make for the program. Believe me, we take everything to heart, and we very much appreciate everything that you do for our students, for our program, and any insight, feedback that you can provide for us is greatly appreciated. We always, with being an online program, it's hard for us to have that one-on-one connection with you or our students. So again, any communication, questions, concerns, feedback that you can provide, we greatly appreciate it. And you can read through that, and we'll get through that. We do have some introductions to make, and I would like to introduce, if you want to like take your camera off and wave, if you have the option. Carla's our administrative assistant, and she's the one that does all the all the good stuff for us. Thank goodness. We have Risa Bailiff, who's an instructor. She's joining us. And then Andrea Thompson as well. I believe our other instructor, Emily and Nicholas, are on the job today, so they aren't able to join. If I'm mistaken and I've missed them logging in, take your camera off, wave, say hello. Nicholas does the phlebotomy program for us at the Fort Riley campus, and Emily is doing the phlebotomy program for us here in Great Bend, and then she's also going to be taking on the some MLA responsibilities as well. Our other our administrator that's on board today is Chris Baker. He's our executive director. Hello. And I'm not sure if Dr. Cotis has been able to join.
Dr.
Yep.
Cotis wanted me to pass along. She should be here, but she'll probably be a little late.
Okay, so we'll bring her in at the end
Yeah,
of the
and I'll
meeting.
help her if she's not able to be there.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
You bet. So as far as, can you still see the agenda? Okay, great. So we've got some welcomes done. Our first item of business would be approving the minutes from our last meeting. If you didn't get a chance to view those in our invite, the link is here. I can pull those up for you real quick. I think, Carla, were you able to get those in the chat as well?
Let me pull them over.
Okay. But if you want to take a minute to review those.
I think this is Falls that was in your email.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I have the link here. This is
Oh,
the
yeah, it's in the.
in the agenda. So give you a few seconds. And then we have a little quiz also. I think we can pull that up if you want to vote to approve, or if you see anything else that we need to edit, change, if you have questions, concerns, don't approve. I'm not much on parliamentary procedure, but throw that in there, please. And if we can't get the quiz to work, throw it in the comments as well.
I got the quiz open, so.
Okay. Is it working?
Well, I told it to launch.
Okay.
Can we see it? Can they see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to say that we have approval. So we're going to go with that and move on. Yay. So our new business, the first thing I want to go over some of the things that have happened in the last year that we're pretty excited about. We did get the MLA, Medical Laboratory Assistant Program. It's a certificate program approved. We've been through KBOR, we've been through financial aid, we've got everything ready to go. We have our first set of students that started in the fall with that major declaration. Currently, I think we have somewhere between 6 and 8 students. So I think that's very good for our first semester, as we were not even able to start advertising or offering that until the fall classes started in August. So I think we've made some great progress getting that up and running. And now that it's an option for phlebotomy students or students who are just entering the MLT pathway, we can give them that halfway point. So it's pretty exciting for us. The MLA program does have general education courses. It does have phlebotomy and clinical practicum to meet ASCP certification requirements. It also has basic lab techniques or intro to lab techniques and an MLA practicum in the curriculum degree map. So two big things have resulted out of this. First of all is by adding the phlebotomy and phlebotomy clinical practicum to the degree map, we are able to get that approved for financial aid for those students where in the past it has not been in a degree map for us as long as other than a standalone. And the standalone was not eligible for financial aid because it was only 4 credit hours and other things. So that's a big plus for the MLA program, especially for those students who don't have lab experience or haven't been out in the lab and don't have phlebotomy certification prior to starting a laboratory profession. So that's a great thing. The other thing about it is a great way to get the students in the hospital laboratories, get them acclimated to the laboratory environment while they're completing those general education courses. So we found that the majority of our students for the MLT program that we were losing was during that general education period where they had to have all those gen eds done before they could actually start the laboratory courses. So by giving them kind of a halfway point with the gen eds and adding in the phlebotomy clinical, the basic lab, which does require lab hours, and the MLA clinical practicum, we're able to get them into the lab sooner, get them more immersed in the lab, keep them more engaged. It's going to be a really positive thing for our program all the way around. The other thing I feel like it has is going to be beneficial is that the people who are on the job trained right now who are working in the laboratory, this gives them an easy certification. They can use their work experience for the clinical practicum. They have to have 6 months of work experience documented, but then they can actually qualify and sit for the MLA certification through ASCP. So we're pretty excited about that. And hopefully those students who complete phlebotomy will then move into the MLA program, will then move into our MLT program because it is a seamless transition and we're pretty excited about that. So those courses that are required for the MLA certificate will then transfer directly to our MLT program requirements, and they're already about halfway done. So I'm very excited about it. And like I said, it's taken off very impressively. I'm pretty excited that we already have somewhere between 6, 7, 8 potential students that are already in classes for this fall. They actually had to start in session 4. And then we have several who have indicated that they're going to start in the spring full-time with MLA. So that's exciting. Our program stats for last year, I want to get that out of the way before we move on to this year's stuff. We were expecting to graduate 15 last May. We actually graduated 13. One of them is still finishing up her clinical practicums, and one decided not to do clinical practicums. So she's completed all of her coursework. She's out in the lab, she's working, but didn't complete clinicals. So we actually have 13 who have completed the program. Of those 13, 9 have tested, 7 have passed the ASCP exam. So we're pretty excited about that. One actually even went and took the AMT exam just to, practice, and then has now applied for MLS program entry. So that's kind of exciting. We did have 2 students that were dismissed last year, either due to grades or academic integrity issues. So a total of 4. We had 2 that were dismissed for grades and then 2 that were removed for academic integrity issues. We do have 3 that had clinical practicum 1 over the summer. Didn't pass that, so they're repeating some classes. So they're like a semester behind on graduation. So those are our stats for last year's students. The training the trainer shell, that was one thing that I have been working on as I can for, it was supposed to be done by the fall last year. It was done by fall this year. So I feel like that's a huge accomplishment. And if you're not familiar with the training the trainer shell, what we did is created an online course. We wanted somewhere where we could put our documentation that we review and update on an as needed basis, where anyone would have access to that information and the most updated documents available. So we have created an online classroom for that. And then along with that online classroom with all of the resources, we have also created a training the trainer program or short course. So you'll actually be able to go into our online course, go through preceptor training or how to work with students, how, you know, it includes our expectations for clinical sites. It includes expectations for students, what you can expect from us as instructors in an MLT program. It has information on how to resolve student issues. It has what NACLS and ASCLS consider entry level requirements for completed MLT students. It has information about what is expected of the students in clinical practicums. It also kind of goes into a little bit of the history of how medical laboratory science education has changed. And we put this shell or this online course together in collaboration with the directors of 2 other MLT programs in Kansas and input from 2 MLS programs, several people from 2 of the MLS programs available in Kansas. So it's a generic training about expectations for laboratory students. It is not specific to Barton Community College students, other than the first part of the preceptor training, and then the second part of the online course is resources for our program. The other thing about this training program that we put together is you can actually get PACE CE credit for it. It's worth 1 continuing education credit through Kansas ASCLS. So once you complete the training, you fill out the little survey, you get a certificate, and you can send that in for continuing education for, renewing your ASCP certification or whatever you need for continuing education for your personal certification or licensure. So that is available. Their link is not on there, but I will get the link and I will throw it in the chat for you. And definitely send it out with the minutes just to make sure that you have that. We want everybody to participate in this preceptor training and then provide feedback as well. It's important to us. We want this to be useful for you. We don't want something that's just going to add to your time. We want this to be a useful tool for you to help you work with students. So we would, again, appreciate any feedback that you can provide on the training course. So it's done. Activities this past spring, I did a lot of clinical site visits in the spring. We did several over the summer. It was always good to get out and get that face-to-face relationship built with our clinical sites, and hopefully let you know how much we appreciate everything that you do for our students. We did, I am hoping to get to Northeast Kansas, several of the sites in that area in the next few days. I will be attending the fall program director advisors meeting in Kansas City at St. Luke's. I'm always excited about attending that meeting. It's great to get input from other programs, how they handle situations, updates on what's going on in the laboratory science community. And I hope to have an update for everybody on that when I return. But while we're out there, I'm going to be doing some site visits, as many as I can. If you specifically want me to come and see you, or if you have something you want to discuss, holler at me, and I will definitely do my best to get in and get over to see you. We did several site visits this past year up with our Omaha and Council Bluffs. We've added a couple of clinical sites in Nebraska as well. And so that was exciting. The more clinical sites that we have, I think the better it is for our students. It's definitely been a blessing to be able to reach out to different sites. Numerous new clinical affiliation agreements. I think since January, we've added 25 clinical affiliation agreements. In the past year, I've had to add another 4-inch notebook to our stack. So it's getting a pretty significant number of clinical sites. And, you know, we may only have one student at that one site ever. But again, we appreciate everything that you do for the students, and we are always welcome to add more clinical affiliation agreements to make lives for our profession and our students a little bit easier. We did lots of recruiting and promotion. We were involved in junior day, senior day, career fair on campus. We did the HOSA fall conference. If you're not familiar with HOSA, it's the Future Health Professionals student organization. We have a nice chapter started at Barton Community College. We were like the first post-secondary chapter in the state. And since then, I think we've really, HOSA has grown tremendously this year. And we've added 8 post-secondary clinical site or post-secondary chapters. So that's exciting for us. Our students have more communication and more peers to work with. And so we're excited about that. But we did do a breakout course in phlebotomy at the fall conference. And I think we have 2 of our students actually presenting at the fall conference for HOSA at the end of October. So I'm kind of excited about that as well. We have had 2 KCCTE classes for phlebotomy here on campus. We did one in the spring, and we just finished one 2 weeks ago. It is for adults who are teaching phlebotomy. So we had our first session, we had several community college health science instructors come to campus. We taught them the skills for phlebotomy so that they can go back and teach their students. One thing that we're seeing a lot of is community colleges wanting their nursing instructors to teach phlebotomy class. My recommendation on that is to have those instructors become certified themselves first with ASCP for phlebotomy before they teach it to potential future laboratory professionals. So we just finished another one 2 weeks ago that was several high school health science instructors across the state of Kansas came to campus and again taught them the skills, gave them some curriculum hints, and so hopefully we'll get some more phlebotomy students out and about and into the laboratory profession. It's a pathway. We love it. HOSA State Spring Conference. We had 2 laboratory students participate. They both placed first in their event. One event was biotechnology. The other event was phlebotomy. Those students also did a team competition for forensic science. That was very exciting. And they placed first in the team competition. We went to ILC, the international conference over the summer, and all of our students placed in the top 10 and were recognized in front of, oh gosh, 13,000 people, I think. So it was pretty exciting. Did several school visits. And then we also created a promotional MLA campaign. So we did a video, we developed the website, lots of stuff. Now, Coffeyville's MLT program did officially close May 8th. So there are now Seward, us, and Manhattan Area Technical College that are NACLS accredited for MLT programs. I believe we have some others that are working on the accreditation or have done a partnership consortium. And so that's pretty exciting. Again, the more students that we have, the more that are going to be out in your facilities, the more that it just helps the entire profession. We had 40 students approximately attend the Kansas ASCLS meeting.
Mock code green, all clear.
That was
Code green.
last year. Am I still on the right agenda? God, no wonder I'm confused. How about that one? Okay. Now, new business. In fall of 2026, we are changing the degree map for the MLT program to reflect more of an alignment with the other two MLT programs in Kansas. The idea is to allow students to transfer directly from one program to another if they move or for whatever, they have to go online, whatever reason. But our program, although we were always in alignment, we had just a little bit of a unique twist and unique requirements for our program. So we're changing that to more directly reflect what the other two programs have. And I'm going to throw that up here for you so you can see some of the changes. Can you see those? The degree map. Okay, great. So just to give you a heads up, our phlebotomy program, we've listed the phlebotomy classes, we've listed the MLA classes, and then we've listed the MLT courses specifically here. Start dates, we have start dates about every 8 to 16 weeks. We do have a summer 12-week class for program classes, and then we have an 8-week phlebotomy program. So that has not changed. The biggest change that you'll see is over here in these last two columns, we have our MLT degree map from what we currently have, and it will be the same for the spring semester of 2026, but then there are changes coming on fall 2026. The biggest change is we are removing the social science requirement of general psych or intro to sociology. The other two MLT programs do not have a social science requirement in their general education. So we wanted to do some creative scheduling, and we were able to move that course out of the requirement list. What we are adding instead is principles of phlebotomy and the phlebotomy clinical practicum. In the past, this has been a prerequisite for the program, but was not included in our degree map, and therefore it was not eligible for financial aid. Moving it into our degree map, it will now be eligible for financial aid, which is going to be great. We are also adding the MLA course, Intro to Basic Lab Techniques. That will be added. So again, that helps with that transition from MLA to MLT. It also more closely resembles the degree maps for the other two MLT programs because they have an intro to lab type of course. And then let's see, the other change that we will be making is our lab operations class. Down here on the bottom, the MLT required courses, we're going to be moving that from 2 credit hours to a 1 credit hour course. And that allows us to put the clinical practicum for phlebotomy in there as well. So same number of credit hours. We're just taking out the social science, dropping lab ops to 1 credit instead of 2. And by doing that, we can add the intro to lab, we can add the phlebotomy, and we can add the phlebotomy clinical practicum and get those more aligned with the other 2 programs. Plus, it increases the financial aid availability for phlebotomy. So, yeah. Big change, but we're very excited about it. I think it's going to benefit our students tremendously. Now, the class that we're taking out for, yes, this one, the human parasitology, mycology, and mycobacterium or fungal class, we are taking that out of the curriculum. We are moving it into or beefing up the pathogenic microbiology class to include those topics a little bit more. The other 2 MLT programs do not have a specific parasitology class. So again, going to keep that a little bit better aligned. So degree map change, that's a big one. The other thing that I want to make sure you get a chance to review will be the new 25-26 school year handbook and clinical manual for the programs. Instead of having a separate handbook and a separate clinical manual for all 3 programs, phlebotomy, MLA, and MLT, they basically said the same thing, had the same expectations. So we've combined them into 1 manual, 1 handbook, 1 thing to keep track of for updates. And so we have that all put together and ready now. And it will be in our clinical preceptor and resources online course for your review. I also have the link there. And on our quizzes, I'm not sure if we have, or our little poll, I think we have a thing about your questions on how your clinicals went. And then we also have a question on, please make sure you review the documents that we've changed. Again, they're going to be in the course preceptor. I'm going to send out the updated documents to everybody for with our minutes and the recording of the Zoom as well. I know I feel like I'm going really fast, but we have a lot to cover. Our clinical agreement and schedule form. I am going to open this one up. Our clinicals are not changing. Our clinical requirements are not changing. Our documentation is going to change a little bit. Our biggest concern that we have had as instructors in our past for the clinical students is having them stick with a specific schedule. So it's difficult for us to monitor their progress, to make sure they're getting everything done within the corrected time or designated time frame. And they've been given a lot of leeway as to when they come in, when they don't, what days they're going to be there and what days they aren't. And those dates and times are always designated by the clinical affiliate. It needs to be based on what works best for your staffing needs and your workload needs and when you can work with the student. We do prefer that they're day shift Monday through Friday. We feel like that gives them the best clinical experience or real world experience. They get to see the most specimens or the most scenarios during that time frame. So we prefer that those be their designated timeframes with your clinical site. Our biggest complaint or concern from clinical sites that we've had in the past is attendance and documenting attendance on the students. So maybe something's come up and they can't get in that day, or they need to change this day to that day. It's everyday life. It's no different than your job. Sometimes your babysitter's sick or whatever. And we understand those situations, but there needs to be accountability on both the student's part and the clinical site so that we know that the students are doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're supposed to be doing it, and there's no question that they were there during non-paid off-the-clock hours, and that they're there under the supervision of a certified laboratory professional. So we still have our clinical practicum schedules for clinical practicum 1 and 2. The biggest change that we are making on these forms is that we have a clinical practicum agreement that we would like for the clinical sites and the student to both sign. And it has responsibilities and expectations. Again, these are all listed in our clinical manuals. They're all listed in our clinical request forms. For some reason, people just sign off. The students are just signing it, and then apparently they're not reading it. So we're going to go a step further and make sure that they have a designated preceptor, which is a NACLS requirement for accreditation, to have a designated preceptor. Preceptor being the certified laboratory professional that works specifically with the students. And that can change on a daily basis. It can be designated by the supervisor or the clinical liaison or whoever, but it needs to be documented. And that's going to be our biggest priority, I think, moving forward as we try and get the MLA program certified or accredited, is that we are meeting all of our NACLS standards specifically. And, it's not going to be implied that they are working with a certified preceptor. It's going to be required and documented that they're working with someone specifically when they're there as a student. So clinical supervisor, student, and I will all sign it. And for your convenience and to keep the student more accountable, there is a weekly schedule here. Our clinical schedules for clinical practicum 1 and 2, if you are doing them back to back, part-time, 24 hours a week minimum, which is the requirement, then it can take you up to 20 weeks to get both of them done. That is allowing for about a week between each department rotation for students to take their comprehensive exams for that department and then do any remedial work or retest if needed before they move on to the next department. So I think we've explicitly defined what is required for our program for NACLS accreditation and provided you with a schedule where you can document everything. Not only will that help you keep the student accountable, it'll help keep the student accountable for the hours that they're doing and making sure they're progressing. And then it also is required for our accreditation documentation. So I think that would be a good benefit for everybody around. Are there any questions about the schedule form or clinicals with the students at all?
This is Cindy McKeon.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. So have any of your affiliate sites come in with the expectation that the formal didactic course needs to be completed before they start their practicums?
Good morning.
You were at a mock coat green.
I know, I heard it.
Okay, we have had some confusion from different clinical affiliates asking about the definition between our cooperative student lab hours and our clinical practicum rotations. So with our program being completely online for the didactic or the theory content, that's slightly different than the other two MLT programs that they are routinely dealing with in Kansas. In the fact that our coursework is online, but instead of coming to campus for their student labs that go along with those courses, we allow the students to do those lab hours, cooperative student lab hours, in a cooperating clinical affiliate. So what I mean by that is they're doing their student lab hours that they would normally do on campus in a hospital. We do have to have a clinical affiliation agreement in place for that to happen. But these students are doing the basic practice, learning the skills, practicing the skills required in a hospital instead of coming to campus. So that's the biggest difference, I think, in our program and other programs that aren't used to that. And they don't see that a lot. Usually students don't come to them until they have all of their theory, didactic, and student lab hours completed. And then they do the traditional clinical practicum rotations. So we have had some confusion from clinical sites who thought when the students approached them about, hey, can I do my clinical hours with you? The students, again, are not helping that confusion, I should say, because they're approaching a facility as, can I do my clinical hours? They're not saying, can I do my cooperative student lab hours during my courses at your facility? So I think that communication piece between myself and the clinical affiliation or the clinical affiliates needs to be very direct, and we have to have that communication. We also have to have that better defined in our documentation that we provide to potential clinical affiliates. And we felt like we were doing a pretty good job, but then there is so much turnover in hospital laboratories from year to year that communication may not be getting passed on to the replacement preceptors, as turnover occurs. So it's something that we're going to continue to work on to make sure that we're increasing our communication between our clinical affiliates, making sure our students understand the difference between the cooperative student lab hours that they do during the courses and the clinical practicum rotation hours that they do at the end of the program. And then our documentation is going to have to reflect that as well.
How many hours in theory do your students go to a cooperative clinical affiliate and do
Mhm.
this hands-on stuff, training,
Mhm.
learning from their didactic courses? You know, I mean, does it
Mhm.
equate to 5 or 10 hours in a semester? I'm assuming this occurs over the whole semester.
Yes. So it varies on the course. For instance, if we just start with the phlebotomy course, we have 2 hours a week that they do during the principles of phlebotomy class. That 2 hours a week would be, if you consider it as a face-to-face on-campus course, they would spend Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in lecture for an hour, and then on Tuesday or Thursday, they would come for 2 hours of student lab. That's a traditional format for a course that would have a laboratory component with it, just like anatomy and physiology. You might have lecture 3 days a week and lab 1 day a week or 2 days a week. So that should mimic a face-to-face course on campus. So for example, our hematology course is 16 weeks. Once a week, we have a 4-hour lab. So they can do that. Technically, they can do that all in 1 day on 4 hours, or they could split that 2 days a week for 2 hours. And that would mimic the requirements that we would have on campus for a student lab with it's a 6 credit hour course. We just are putting the lab component in with those credit hours. And it would be the same as like anatomy and physiology. Lecture is online, and then they have 4 hours of lab that they do on campus. Instead, they're doing it in the hospital laboratory. So over 16 weeks times 4 hours a week. I can't do that math, but that would be, if you'd like to do that math, that would be the answer to your question. It does vary by class. So the smaller 3 credit hour courses that we have, like urinalysis, parasitology, basic lab techniques, they're only like 2 hours a week. The 6 credit hour big 4 that we have, hematology, clinical chemistry, blood bank, and pathogenic microbiology, those are 4 hours a week for the 6 credit hour classes. Again, 16-week schedule. Thank you, Cindy, for that question. I hope I see you this weekend. Okay. Any other questions regarding clinicals or student cooperative labs? Okay. Oof. Time's getting away. Again, we went through and updated all of our clinical expectations or performance competencies. Our competencies are based on the NACL's entry-level requirements for an MLT student or entry-level MLT. So we have our hematology competencies and for cooperative labs, and then we have them updated for our clinical rotations as well. The biggest difference in what we have done to update those, mostly it's documentation. So it specifically says this is for the cooperative lab or this is for the clinical lab. The other thing that we have done is, let me pull this one up real quick for us. I think I can do it. If you notice on our clinical competencies, there is a quota. So for example, manual differentials, 100 manual differentials with 95% accuracy. That is going to be a clinical competency, not a cooperative lab competency. So the cooperative lab competency, it just says do manual diffs, and these are the things that we're looking for. And and rating them, yes, they can do it easily. They can do it with difficulty. They need some more help. We're good to go. So that's going to be the main difference is the clinical competencies will have those quotas on there, and they need to meet a specific 95% accuracy. The cooperative student lab competencies will not have the quota or they have to have this accurate or that accurate, or they have to meet entry level or not entry level. So just a little bit of a difference there. And this will allow us to go through and compare how they did in the student lab. Now that they've completed the student lab, we go to clinical practicums. Did we see improvement? Which we hope we do, right? By the end of the 16 weeks, you hope you see some improvement. So yes, that's the biggest difference on our performance competencies. And then our effective evaluations, effective behaviors evaluation, the thing that we kind of, we just went through and changed the format of it a little bit. The one thing that we really did on the competencies and the behavior evaluation is that we added, instead of having a non-applicable or not available at this facility, we changed that to this is not available or not applicable to our facility, but we did discuss it. So instead of just saying, oh, we don't do that here and you move on, we do want you to spend some time going over that information with student if possible. And again, the effective behaviors is going to reflect that as well. We do want you to discuss if it's not specifically available or not applicable at your facility. The other thing is that we added a comment on the competencies as well as the effective behavior evaluation. Please review this documentation with your student. We've had instances where all of a sudden at the end of their clinical practicum, we find out that the student didn't show up like they were supposed to. Or they were not very accepting of criticism, constructive criticism. So we'd rather they know it and they can have that discussion during the clinical practicum or during their student lab experience than we find out about it after the fact. And at that point, it's really kind of too late to do anything about it. So please don't ever hesitate to contact us or have that discussion with the student as well. If you're running into issues or if you see a behavior that you feel isn't reflecting the professional behavior that you would like to see as a laboratory professional. So we have that. For this year, we currently have 87 active students in our MLT specific courses. Most of them are doing 12 credit hours a semester. So it could take them 2 to 3 full 16-week semesters to complete. Some of them are taking part-time, 6 credit hours a semester. Some of them are taking 12 credit hours a semester, which is full-time. So we've got a lot of variation in our students as far as when their completion date will actually occur. We have 208 at my last count MLT declared majors working on prerequisites. And this does not include our phlebotomy students or our MLA students. These are MLT declared majors working on their gen eds, actively working on our gen eds. We have a lot that have declared MLT as their major, but they may be sitting out a semester or they may be starting next spring or next fall. So these are actively taking courses this semester with an MLT declared major. 208. So you add that to our 87 in the MLT classes, and my count is 295 active MLT students. And that's a lot, and I'm very happy about that. It's a good problem to have. We are anticipating somewhere between 15 to 20 of them graduating in May. And we have 8 MLA declared majors. I think 6 are currently taking classes now. Phlebotomy students alone for this semester, which is not including the session that will start next Monday, we have 41 phlebotomy students. I think we have 12 on campus. The rest are out in student cooperative labs or clinical practicums at this time. So we've got a good pipeline going. I'm very happy with our pipeline, our pathway, especially with us being able to, I feel, keep more of these 208 students engaged. If we can get in some of that laboratory, MLA, basic intro to lab, and phlebotomy while they're doing their general education courses. I think that'll help keep them engaged and increase the MLT active course numbers in the future. So again, I'm looking at probably 20 graduates for May, depending on how they want to schedule their clinical practicums. And then the rest of this fall is recruiting activities, clinical site visits, updating documentation, working on MLA accreditation, which is from the last NACLS meeting that I attended on the new standards and the new program accreditation application. It's about 200 hours to complete the application after you have gathered up all of your documentation. So that's going to be a good chunk of my time. Our goal is to have that application submitted before the fall of 2026. It's a goal. Program director advisor meeting in Kansas City is this weekend. I will be putting out some updates on that. And then yesterday, I think it was Monday, yesterday, we had the Great Bend High School CTE pathway instructors come through and do a tour and visit the campus and look at all of our CTE courses. It was great to have that communication and that connection with the local high school. And another thing that we're working with our HOSA group is we're trying to put together a skills night or a skills day for area HOSA students, high school students, to come to campus and work with our faculty and staff with all of our healthcare programs, not just the MLT program, but with everybody. And hopefully we can get a practice skills night put together before they go to their state spring competitions. So that's in the work as well. 3 minutes. College updates. I am, can we pull that quiz up, and I want to make sure that we get any questions that we have answered real quickly. And then on the quiz,
What's the name of it?
the advisory board minutes
Oh, okay.
poll, just to give everybody a chance to kind of finish that up. Yes, so approval of the minutes, we got that done. Regarding clinicals for your most recent Barton MLT student, please answer. It went great, had no concerns. We had some minor issues. If you'd like to put those in the comments or email me please do it privately and I can get those addressed. And then if you had any concerns or questions, please send me an email or ask questions. Now's your chance. Any discussion or feedback. And then our third requirement or question here is you've reviewed the documents or you'll review them later and reach out with any questions or concerns. So if you could put an answer there or throw your comments or questions in the chat. But I am going to open that up if anybody very interested in getting the practicum expectation. Oh, reviewed. Yes, good. And let's see, I think you're, oh, Andrea, thanks. I finally saw that. And then answer all three questions if you can, please. Yes. So again, I am going to send out the recording and minutes for the meeting, as well as these documents. I'll send it out to everyone. I know some of you, this is an hour-long meeting and we go really fast and there's a lot of information. So again, please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions, concerns, feedback. Everything is appreciated. But I'm going to let Chris, now I've got a minute and a half. So go for it, Mr. Baker.
That's okay. I'll be quick. Excuse me. Dr. Cotis thought she'd be able to join by the end, but I'll take her announcements over. Mainly from the college standpoint, just recently the Kansas Board of Regents released the fall enrollment estimate data, which is the 20th day enrollment snapshot, basically. And that's always an important metric for us to determine how we're doing across the state. It showed that we at Barton had a 5% increase. So to let you know, that puts us about third largest increase out of the 19 community colleges. So we're pretty happy with that result. And as an average for all 19 community colleges across the state, there was a 0.8% increase. So when we look at the snapshot, we're performing pretty well in that area. To give a little bit more information on that, over the 5-year data, we're at a 24.8% increase from where we were five years ago. And that's the second highest across the community colleges. So once again, pretty happy about that performance. Looking forward to spring of 2026, right now we're looking at a 9% enrollment increase. That's a number, that's just a snapshot. It's early. Lots of things will change. Some things will go up and some will go down, but 9% increase so far is a good sign. If I break it down just a little bit more, our healthcare specific programs are running at about a 10 to 12% increase in enrollment. So that's a really good area to be in. We're pretty excited about that. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Karen mentioned about the USD 428 tour that we just recently had, I'd like to offer that invitation to any of you folks if you ever find yourself in the area of Barton. Even if Karen wouldn't be available, I'd be glad to kind of show you around campus and show you the lab spaces and all of that. Just have to reach out and contact. You guys do so much for our students, and if we could just do a little something for you, if you were interested, we'd be glad to do that and provide any information that you would request. So once again, thank you for everything. We very much appreciate your support of the program.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
And that is 1 hour. So we're good. I'll stick around if you have any questions, concerns, anything. I'll stick around on Zoom for a little bit, but feel free to sign off and go back to your normally scheduled program. And again, thank you for everything that you do for our students, for our program, for our laboratory profession in general. And we can't thank you enough. So I hope the rest of your semester goes smoothly, and please don't ever hesitate to reach out. Have a great rest of your week and rest of your semester. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
We got the recording stopped.
Uh,
Here, got it.
okay.
Stop